we have you here because we're doing our tribute to the Black History Month,
Yes.
and you are a person of interest to not just myself, but many others of this organization.
First, I want the Housing Authority to know that it is an honor and a privilege to have been chosen to do this in celebration of Black history. I thank the Housing Authority and all those that are responsible. So much gratitude I have this morning.
Well, we thank you in return, and we want to thank you, like I said, because you got an honor tonight. Just see it over you. So
Thank you.
if you're ready, we're gonna start.
I knew.
Okay. Are you originally from Rochester, New York?
Yes, I'm a Rochesterian, born and raised here. I'm not gonna tell you my age, but as I talk of events, you will probably guess. But my parents, were very hardworking people. Originally, I'm from the east side. But my father, as things, got better for him, we bought properties, again, on the west side.
Okay.
I love the city and I love what we can offer new people coming into the city.
Okay, well, what has your experience been in general, just living in Rochester?
I've had trials, ups and downs, but I'm one of those people that forge on. Not just me, but others, who I've been acquainted with, who've been in the city a long time. We see the advantages of us staying here. Okay, I have to admit, it wasn't easy at first. I lacked the skills that I needed to really advance in the workforce. Back in the day, we had, quite a few programs that reached out to minorities, to equip them with the tools necessary to gain, value employment. One of those agencies was the Urban League, another was ABC, who was right in the forefront of, giving us resources, minority resources, so that we could better ourselves, in as far as our living conditions.
Okay, it's pretty good. Now, this question here, I think it's a compound question, so I'm just gonna read the whole thing out.
Sure.
I let you break at it the way you can.
Okay.
Okay, racial equity focuses on equal outcomes. What barriers do you feel disproportionately hurt people of color by race and ethnicity? And why is racial equity so important to you?
That's a good question. I'm gonna group it, when you mention race, I think that those of us of color, okay, the barriers that were there 30, 40 years ago, I'm seeing it coming back. And what those barriers are employment.
Yeah.
Not so much the lack of employment, but skilled employees. Another barrier is education, beginning with our young people in elementary school, going all the way up to high school. I came up in the area in, high school. My high school was West High on Genesee Street. It is now known as Wilson. There's been a lot of changes structurally in the education part of the city school district. And I'm just a little bit confused about it, to be honest. I think the focus of education should be the child. One of the things that I noticed that those in authority make these plans for our children, and I wish they would talk to our youth to find out exactly what it is that they need. Now, everybody is not, every child is not college bound or want to go to college. I think some of the trade schools that we used to have here in the city, they need to come back. I give an example. I have a couple pair of shoes in my closet that need repair. I cannot find a shoe repair person. We used to have that. Tailors, those, mechanics. I don't drive. But just the new cars is so technical. And I'm hoping that the city school district looks at those type of jobs and prepare our youth to be able to take on those jobs upon completion of high school. Another barrier is housing. It's all over, but let me talk about Rochester. I am so grateful and happy to be part of Rochester Housing Authority. We know that there is a deficit in housing. When I say a deficit, affordable, decent, sanitary housing, not only housing, but resources for those folks that live in those housing complexes to where we are landlords.
Right.
But HUD says we are more than that. And I'm happy to be with an agency who sees that. And also I'm happy to know that the person who is at the helm, Sean Burr, also recognized that. Also, our staff recognized that. I think that our housing authority is going into a different shift where we want to advocate more than just safe and affordable housing. We want to advocate that whatever it is that you need to elevate you up and out of public housing and hopefully into your own home. Other areas of barriers would be with the legal system. We need more representation of people of color sitting on the bench in the prosecution office, defense attorneys. We need more people of color in those positions. Also, our police department, we need more men and women, minorities with the police department because I know when I look at you, I can relate to you. I may not have walked in your shoes, but I can relate to the issues that you may be having in your neighborhood. Healthcare. I'm shocked of the lack of funding that's going to healthcare. This affects minorities and especially our children and our elderly. The lack of those funds means there's going to be a lack of services for those communities. Another barrier, community awareness. We need to let our city residents know what's going on in their neighborhoods. There has been a lot of housing going on, and I'm surprised that even in my neighborhood, they don't know. They don't know. Because I'm a resident commissioner, people do call me outside of housing, wanting to know about these housing new developments. And what I do, I try to put them on a website, give them information or plug them into someone that might be able to help them. Those are the barriers, but in order to overcome those barriers, I feel we have to come together as a people, not blacks, browns, Hispanics. All of us need to come together as a family to advocate for each other.
True,
For each other.
true, very true. Good,
Did I answer your question?
very thoroughly.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so we're gonna go on to the next thing is, what do you know about the conditions of the old Hanover project complex back in the sixties? What were the living conditions compared to the complexes that the other complexes of that time, you know, because I think that was on, not even, I think that was right before the urban renewal.
Yes.
So, and how would you compare it to today's public housing?
Let me give you a little history, and I might be telling my age on this one. My father owned property where our family self-sufficiency office sits. Back then, it was called Herman Street. Now it's called Open Falls. I remember the area of Hanover before it was Hanover. Okay, I believe the fathers of this city wanted to bring something to that neighborhood, which was Hanover. I don't like the idea of calling it a project, because a project is an experiment. And truly, that experiment failed. Okay, they may have the best intentions in the beginning, but what was lacking, I believe, was was a skill set or a mindset to let the residents know of Hanover that this is not your last stop. We want more for you, which is something that the Rochester Housing Authority does. Back then, there was a lack of employment, lack of education, the whole gamut, but that wasn't filtered into the residents of Hanover complex. The difference between them, that time and now, well, if you drive around our cities, you can see a lot of development going on. We have lots of housing going on, but I have to say in my travels, What's lacking, we're really good with high rises. Everyone doesn't like to live in a high rise. I would like to see more, which the Housing Authority is doing, single family homes, home ownership. Home ownership gives you pride in where you live and in your neighborhood. It also gives you a sense of worthiness. And I think that's what we need. I think that's what we need.
That's true. That's true.
I hope I answered your question.
No, you're right on. If I have any questions about it, I will come back at you, but no,
Okay.
you're right on. Now, during that time in the sixties, we had this little riot here lately, but in the sixties, what do you see the benefits of that riot and what actually was the cause of that? I think it was, they said something about an argument or fight or whatever, but
I can't speak to what actually caused the riot, but I was very young at the time. But I sensed that people was very dissatisfied with the conditions of their neighborhood. That we were very dissatisfied with the lack of services for us. We were very dissatisfied with the way we were being treated. I've seen some very horrendous things that was going on with the police department, the brutality that was placed upon us. And if you could roll back some of the news articles and some of the videos that was done, you could see how we were treated. Dogs were sent upon us, sicked on us. Fire hoses was sprayed on us. We reacted, I think, the only way we knew how, because nobody was hearing us. Yes, neighborhoods were torn down, stores were vandalized, but the end of that was that we had an organization that rose up through the riots, and that was called FIGHT, FIGHT. And the person who spearheaded that mission, I would say, was Minister Franklin Florine Sr. He had a vision for this town, and he had a good vision. He pulled people together. We call them grassroots people. These people, myself included, we did what was called the old outreach. We knocked on your door. We wanted to know what the issues were. What were your concerns? This was something that he spearheaded. This was his vision. We could sit around the table and do a powwow, but I believe Minister Franklin Florine Sr. wanted to hear from the folks. And I'm going to fast forward that a little bit. Because of his influence and because of his vision, he spearheaded a company called Fight On. It was the first Black-owned and managed company. It was a factory, which gave us all pride in knowing that we could own something and be part of a community that was valuable to our community. So with fights and also there was Fight Village and Fight Square. Fight Square is no longer here, but Fight Village is still standing. And that's a lot of history right there because of Minister Franklin Florence. Also, there was Minister Raymond Scott, and there were others that Minister Franklin Florence mentored towards, that as he left that organization, there were others that he had mentored to carry on his vision.
What developments and progresses have you seen in housing for the Black community now compared to the past? Have you seen any significant changes or anything better for?
Yes, I have. Well, number one, there's more housing opportunities around. It's not enough. It is not enough. Even with Rochester Housing, as you know, our waiting list is very, very long. There's no way that we can accommodate everyone who's on that waiting list, but we're gonna give it our best shot. Rochester Housing is in the midst of developing new complexes, new developments. But within our city, if you drive around, there is a lot of housing, but it's not affordable. That is what's needed. I get a little confused, to be honest with you, when you say affordable, subsidized, and there's another word, public housing. Okay. Most of these terms, it's about one's income. So if your income is low, you're kind of limited as to where you can live. Most of us, especially if you're a single parent raising children, you look at your neighborhood that you're living in. Let's say you want to move. You look at the neighborhood where you would like to live in. Then you look at the housing that's available to you. Unless something is subsidized or affordable or public housing, many of our families cannot afford safe, comfortable, sanitary housing. This is what is needed. Now, I want to talk just a little bit about housing for seniors. And I think our housing authority has keyed in onto our special needs for seniors. And I'm sure other landlords are looking at that also. But I think there's more work to be done. But you can have the greatest development, but where you place it, we need to look at the areas where we're placing. We're gonna give you good housing, it's gonna be affordable, it's gonna look good. But when I walk out my door, what am I looking at? So it takes a partnership with developers and the city. I live in one of the poor zip codes that there is, 14605. I think we're a forgotten zip code. We lack supermarkets. In 14605, there's only one. If they should close their door, we're lost. Everyone doesn't have a car to go to the malls and things. You know, the convenience. We lack healthy food items. The cost of food now is so high. In order to eat healthy, you got to really come out your pocket. You got to, which I don't understand. I really don't understand. When you take away sugar and salt and all like that, the price of that goes up. So we're limited to healthy foods. We're limited to vendors who will come into our neighborhood and provide those services for us. In 14605, we have one bank, one pharmacy. And I just wish people would think about, yes, we do need housing, but we need other services within that community for us to thrive.
Like that. That was
Yeah.
This one here is, this is one out of, you might be real passionate about this one too. What made you choose to be an advocate for our community as a vice chair and resident commissioner of the Housing Authority, and what policies and procedures you feel will make a difference in public housing?
The position I'm holding now goes back to 2008. I was encouraged by residents to apply for that position. I really didn't know too much about being a commissioner, but one of the passionate things I have is helping other people. In my ministry, I am a missionary. And I believe that God's work goes beyond the walls of the church. It goes out into the community. I love helping people, but I also choose my battles wisely. I love to see people progress. I love to see people have a plan and goals, and those goals are set. And when I sat back and looked, how could I do this? The housing authority was the best place for me to be. We can give you what you need. We don't want to be just a landlord and collect rent from you. We want to give you the tools and the resources, as I said before, to move you up and out into your own home, if that's what you aspire to do. If you're looking for employment, we have resources to help you with that, job training. If you're looking to further your education, we have resources for that. I just love what we have to offer. I also think it is my position as a resident commissioner first to get that information out to the people. Let me go back just a little bit. In order to be a resident commissioner, there's two of us. We are voted in by the residents of Rochester Housing Authority. The 5 other commissioners are appointed by our mayor, whoever's in seat at that time. We work together as a group. We feed off each other. Um, Myself and my other commissioner, Commissioner Davis, we try to listen to what you have to say, and we can distinguish what we can do. There's sometimes our hands are tied, but the best thing we can do is listen. I listen to what you're saying, but I'm also listening to what's not being said. And that opens a door for me to find out other things. And usually when I'm talking to someone, especially a resident, they're not aware of what we can do for them. We had people who lived with us 10, 15 years that didn't know about home ownership. That's my job. Well, most people don't know that Rochester Housing Authority and any housing authority nationally, there are policies that are set by HUD. We make sure that those policies and regulations are adhered to. HUD is telling us, gives us a group of policies, and it's our responsibility to follow through with them. We also make our own policies that reflect residents' living, such as when you sign a lease. Whatever is in that lease is actually for your benefit, to make your experience in where you live more enjoyable and more profitable. One of the things, well, many of the things I like about our Rochester Housing Authority is that whenever we come up with a policy, it's presented to the residents first. We want their input, pet policies, parking, you name it. It comes to the residents first for their input. Then it comes back to staff. As a resident commissioner, I really do appreciate that. When it comes back to staff, myself and the other resident commissioner or any commissioner, we can have input. We want to make sure that staff understands where we are on these policies. We want staff to understand that we do understand policies have to be made. Rules and regulations have to be abided by. Okay. I think as a landlord, I think we're very lenient. And I also think the policies are made for a reason. You can't govern without rules.
True.
Even in your own household with our children. I'm in a different phase of the season of my life now, and I'm raising my grandson, a 6-year-old grandson. Okay. I set rules in my house. We as an authority, we have to set rules and policies for people to obey by. And I'm happy with those policies.
Okay. I could be raising them grandkids, that's over. Anyway, all right. How would you encourage minorities through the process of advocating for their housing needs?
We have to come together. We have to come together as a group. I would say as a family to voice our concerns to whomever we want to voice that to. Not just with Rochester Public Housing, but also you have another level that's up here, and that's our city council members. We vote these people in. We want to be heard. There is power in a vote. If you want my vote, what can you do for me? There was a movie, I can't remember the name of it. Think of Donna Ross, Billy D. Williams. Billy D. Williams was running for an office, Mahogany. And as he was campaigning, she was in the midst of the crowd. And she said, I got 3, 4 kids. What you gonna do for me? I can understand that. So when people are going around campaigning, we need to ask them, make it personal. What is it that you can do for me? What is your vision for my neighborhood? What is the deficit that you see? And when you see that deficit, what are you going to do about it? You know, I'm not into titles. I'm into doing what you promise you say that you want. If you don't fulfill your promise, Ms. Cummings will not vote for you the next term around. This is serious. We need to go. Minorities, we need to be more involved in the political process. Vote. Get involved in your community. Know what resources are in your community. Get to know what community agencies are in your community. Don't walk past ABC and wonder what they're doing. Go in there and ask. Don't walk past Baden Street and wonder what they're doing. Go in there and ask. Don't walk past our bureau. Go in there and ask, what can you do for me? What do you have that would benefit me? What do you have that would make me grow? What do you have that would make me be more self-sufficient?
Why is celebrate Black history important to you?
Sense of pride. A sense of pride.
Say that.
There were people and I say this a lot about Black history. There were people who put their lives on the line for us to experience what we're experiencing right now. People have gone to jail. People have been murdered, hanged for the rights that we now enjoy. And I think some of those rights, some of us take for granted, but there's history behind just being able to go vote. There's power, as I said, in being able to vote. Pride in knowing where I come from. Not just my family history, but the history of the city of Rochester. We have birthed some powerful people in this community who have been mentors and have been good examples. I mentioned a few: Minister Franklin Florence Sr., Raymond Scott, Mr. James McCullough, who was in charge of ABC at one time, and I can go on and on and on. We have a young mayor, Malik Evans. Certainly he is an example to young Black men. If he can do it, you can do it. We need to see more positive images of people of color so that you're setting an example to the youth coming behind you. Yes, you can do it. It takes sacrifice, it takes due diligence, and it takes support. The saying is, it takes a village to raise a child. And that is so true. So again, with Black history, it gives me pride in knowing where I came from. Knowing where I came from gives me an incentive to know where I can go if I want it.
Which I like that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, Commissioner Cummings, we thank you very much for taking up your time to let us
Thank
pick
you.
your brain for that knowledge that you gave us for Black History Month. And we are very happy that you were here, and we thank you.
Thank you